stupid plastic pieces. Alright, wanted to give you some tips on these cables or door handle cables on 7th generation Accords. That's going to be 03 to 07. And basically these are the cable that attach to the inside handle on your doors. And they sit in there like this, and then this is right near the door handle. And you can see what happens. This plastic piece right here breaks. You can see there's one right there, and there's one right here. It's very common. As soon as you take that door panel, as soon as you pop it apart, these things snap if they've been in there any length of time. Because you can see it's just a tiny little piece of plastic right there, and there's a piece of metal like that, and that's what presses against it. So when you pull, this is pressing this way. And so if this is broke, if you just try to pull the cable, it's not going to do anything. Your door will not open. And yeah, they can break on their own, and then you have to replace them, or what happens a lot of times is just you taking the door panel off, they break. And the reason is because they're pinned to the door skin itself, and so as soon as you pry it back a little bit, it starts to bend this, and then they snap right off. Now, I had to work on a 2-door coupe, and I had to work on a 4-door sedan. And so what I'm going to do is I'll piece in some footage from each one. We'll do the coupe first, and then I'll go to the sedan, and I'll give you some tips on each one. Because the coupe is much easier. The coupe, all you do is pop this clip out, and then there's a plastic clip and a little prong that holds it right here. So you just pop it out, pop the clip out, and the coupe is easy. The sedan's much more difficult. You got to take a bunch more stuff apart. So I'll just show you some tips on each version. You can see that's all the new cable looks like. That's where it breaks right there. And if you can see in the mirror, they just snap into that purple clip right there. Just try not to break them. And another little tip, a magnetic flashlight that just stays in there like this Harbor Freight one, and zip ties on a mirror. You can see, I can see right in there to get that clip back on, because when you're reaching around in here, you can't see what you're doing. You can't get your head in there to see it, and you need a mirror. And you can't hold the mirror and pull that little rod over so that you can get the cable in. You got to have your hands. Sometimes you got to use a little hook to get that rod over. But a zip-tied mirror really helps us. Alright, we'll pause the video right here. Now, when I originally shot this little trick using the mirror, I wasn't sure what video I was going to put it in, or if it was even going to make it into a video. But so I wasn't real clear on how to put the cable in or take it out. So as you can see, I got one of the cables right here. And now this is a mirror image, so it's going to be flipped around the other way. It's going to be like that inside the car. But you can see it's just clipped in right here, right there with that little metal bracket, and then it clips into a little piece of plastic right there. And I have here's what one looks like, a typical one, and these just snap into a little metal rod there, and then this cable goes into that and it snaps over. So whenever you need to take it apart, you just need to reach in there. I'm not going to snap this down now because this is not the right part. But I usually reach in there with a little pocket screwdriver and just pop this up. I pry it up like that, and then you can just take the cable out like that, and then pry it out of the little metal bracket, and you can take this cable off. And putting it back in, when you bring it in there, that little rod that this attaches to likes to flop over, so it'll like to flop back. And so you're trying to put this thing in there and it won't go in. And so normally what I'll do is I'll grab a little pick, and I'll put the pick back over there, and I'll pull the little rod over. And then you can just place this inside the plastic clip and then snap it over. And that's why I use the trick with the mirror, because the hard part about doing these coupes is that you're trying to work around the door panel, or the inside of the door panel there, and it's difficult because you can't see what you're doing and you're trying to reach around the corner. So a little mirror trick, and just being careful prying the plastic pieces is what you need to look out for on these. And while I'm thinking of it, the left side and the right side cables are different, and coupes and sedans are different, so you got to be sure to get the right cable. Alright, and right here, this is the end of the cable that breaks, and there's a still shot of what it looks like after it's repaired. So that's what it looks like in the car when it's not broken. And you can see on this, I'm barely pulling that door panel back and looking straight down, and it puts a lot of strain right there on this little connector, and that's why it always breaks. But you see, to pop this out on this side, it's the same thing. It's got a little plastic connector, and then you just pop the rod out, or the cable in this case, and then right here has a similar metal little bracket that it attaches to. And so pretty easy to take in and out on this side. But yeah, that piece right there gets strained as soon as you start popping the door panel off, and that's why they break. So as you saw in the coupes, these cables are pretty easy. This is a sedan, and you can see this one's broken too. Pretty much anytime you pull these door panels off, if these things are, you know, have any length of time installed, if they're not brand new, they're going to break right here. But on these sedans, they're a little bit more difficult. You got to basically take the latch assembly off, and you know, you got to disconnect this rod up here. On the driver's side, there's 2 rods you got to disconnect. Then you got to take the 3 screws out and take the assembly out. And then you can get this cable, which is kind of pinned back behind here and underneath a plastic cover. So a little more work on these sedans than they are on the 2-door coupes. Just be aware, anytime you touch any of this stuff, you're going to break it. Be particularly mindful of those clips up there, like that blue clip right there. These things are stuck in here really well, so it's a good idea to put some penetrating oil on there. And then what I use, I'll show you right here. I just go in there and kind of, after I wiggle it back and forth a million times, then I just use this to kind of pop it out. If you just go in there and yank on that rod, well, let me see if I can point it out. If you just yank on that rod, what's going to happen is this little plastic pin right here that holds the spring for your door handle, you're going to break that off. Then you're going to be buying a new door handle. And on these older Accords, these things are being discontinued. You're not going to be able to find them, or at least not in your color. And the secret to getting these 3 screws out, right there, there's a dot. They're JIS. A number 3 JIS tipped screwdriver on an impact. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. That's how you do it. And that's what she looks like out of the vehicle. So you just pop it off. Take this plastic cover off. There's 1 screw back here. This cover comes off. This black piece pops out. And then you can just disconnect this cable and put the new one in. Just remember, this gray goes on the passenger or right side, and the black goes on the left side or driver's side. And that's what it looks like with the new one installed. Kind of just have to pull the old one out after you disconnect it and run the new one in. Just don't get caught up when you're pulling off this little plastic cover. I'll show you right here. This little tang right here, there's a little barb. It likes to, well, I mean, it's designed to grab in there, so when you try to pull it off, it really holds it right there. You just got to pry up a little bit and you can pop it off. And to get this black piece off, all you have to do, there's a little tab right here, just squeeze it down, and then that top part will pull out, and then the bottom piece is just a little fastener, and you can just pop it back out, or pop it straight out. I'll just use something like this to kind of gently pop it out so we don't break it. And obviously, when you get it all back together, make sure these cables are routed the same way. So it should look like this, with this door lock cable tucked in there like that, and then this one goes over the top right in this little groove right there. So that's how it looks like to go back in the vehicle. Well, there you go. Hope you enjoyed the tips on these door handle cables. Thankfully, in later years, Honda fixed this design so they don't break as much when you pop them apart. But if you work on these 7th generations, you're probably going to break these. So, as always, if the video helped you out or you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.